Hello, everyone. Welcome. Oh, have you never been to an AA meeting or Catholic Mass? Hello, everyone. Welcome. Perfect, perfect. An exciting evening. I'm sure you're as thrilled to be here as I am. I walk on a cane, so I didn't want to have to work my way up those stairs twice. So I thought we'd do the opening down here, down low, on the down low. It's a very exciting night. The one and only screening in this building of Falls Around Her. And I know she doesn't need an introduction, but I have the filmmaker, Darlene Naponse, here. We were just talking about how we knew one another, that we have connections through Temagami and Bear Island. And after the film, there's going to be a question and answer period with both Darlene and the star of the film, Tantoo Cardinal, is here in the house. Who I have to tell you, when you get into broadcasting, you're supposed to act all cool, like it doesn't fizz you when you meet people. And I turned 50 in December. And although I had interviewed Tantoo a couple of times, at my 50th birthday party, somebody came in from the cold with all these big hood and scarves, and she pulls the hood and takes the scarves off, and it was just like a scene in a movie because it was like the light hit her face, and it was like, oh my God, Tantoo is at my 50th birthday party. The next 50 are going to be good, I can tell, if that's the kickoff. Before we see the film, I just wanted to have Darlene actually introduce the film. But before we do that, we're going to give the land acknowledgement, which I'm happy to say has really caught on. I was at the National Ballet last week, and right before saying Alice in Wonderland, they acknowledged the land. I was the only person that clapped, but yes, I'm glad everyone here agrees. I am from the East Coast. I'm Mi'kmaq, so I'm far out of my territory. I got somebody from the Eastern Door here right now. You look like a Knockwood. Are you a Knockwood? Thomas. All right. You look like you could be Noel Knockwood's. Oh, cool. Yeah, yeah. I know people up there. But this land that we're on tonight is, of course, the treaty territory of the Mississauga, the New Credit, and the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Huron-Wendat. And we, as always, are thrilled to be able to work and create here in this community. I am going to pass my one mic over to Darlene so she can introduce the movie.
Miigwech, miigwech, miigwech. So, yes, thank you for land acknowledgement and that intro. I'm Darlene Naponse from Atikameksheng Anishnawbek, and every time I speak, especially with this film, not only acknowledging the land that we're here today, but also my community who I have a chance to work with and make films with. So I always acknowledge Atikameksheng Anishnawbek. And really happy, and I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and for everybody here at the TIFF Lightbox, and the distributor, and all my producers. But mostly, just really grateful that we'll talk about this more. But just to be able to present this, and for you to experience it in that theatrical form, we as filmmakers always want to aim for an audience but but also is that you experience it within, and it celebrates the craft of what everybody has done in this film, crew and cast wise. So enjoy.
And I have to officially say that on behalf of TIFF, we want to thank Pacific Northwest Pictures for providing us with the film this evening. Let's watch. I feel a little greedy, ladies, because they told me I was going to get to interview you, and I thought, oh, good, we'll probably have about an hour and a half. With the two of them, that should give me just enough time. And then they said, actually, it'd be 30 minutes. Then when I got here, they said, oh, and we need questions from the audience. I was like, oh, I can't share. But I'm going to share, but I do want to start with getting a few things on the table before we throw to the audience. Before we do that, can we just take a second to think about our grandmothers, thinking about being at the TIFF Bell Lightbox, 3 Indigenous women, chatting about a feature film about Indigenous women, by Indigenous women, acted out by some of our greatest Indigenous women? Could Granny ever imagine? Yeah, we need a second just to acknowledge that. So when I knew we were going to be pressed for time, I thought, what are the main things I really want to talk about? And the first thing, let's talk about sex, baby. Um, I am sorry, but I need to like give you a little preamble. I remember watching Beauty Shop when it came out, starring Queen Latifah, and there is a scene where Queen Latifah, a plus-sized black woman, has a makeout scene with a hot, young, chiseled guy. And I remember jumping all around my living room going, never, never before have I seen it. So when I knew I was going to do this, I asked if I could have a screener first. So my wife was gone to bed and I'm under the duvet and the fire is burning and you're feeling all comfy on the couch. And in my little midtown apartment at 2:30 in the morning, I was screaming, there's an Indigenous woman pleasuring herself. There is an Indigenous woman pleasuring herself. And then I started going through like every movie I'd ever seen. Have I ever seen an Indigenous woman enjoying her own body? No, never, not once. And then, so once I was able to like absorb that, then it was, this is a woman over 50 being sexual. What is, back of my mind blew off. So I'd like you each to talk about it, but from two different angles. Tantoo, like most of us, I've watched you for as long as I can remember play every kind of role, and congratulations on finally, after 45 years and 120 some credits, on finally being the star of the movie. So long overdue.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want you to talk about what it was like after all the times you've had to play in situations where your body is being abused and taken. And I want, Darlene, I want you to talk about what your inspiration and what your motivation was for doing that. Maybe we'll start with Darlene and then get Tantoo to talk about what it's like.
Okay. Well, miigwech. Yeah, the inspiration really for the film was all about that. Was is like what people think they can take, and then this continuous unfortunate conversation that Indigenous women and women in general are always having about situations that they're in, and then it kind of paralleled with the idea around mining and the land in our communities, and then but also this is like ownership, and but within those negative contexts, but also celebrating the beauty of Indigenous women, and just the beauty and the strength of women. And so when thinking about the sensuality, the sexuality, we've never seen this on screen, and we don't see it. For the longest time we were just like, you know what I mean, like and so when I first met Tantoo on the set of my past film, she scared the shit out of me. Like I was like, oh my god, like because I was just so not ready for the incredible power that she has, and just this beauty and this fierceness that you can capture on screen. And it was like, why are we not seeing more of this? But why are we not hearing more of these stories? And why cannot we not be sensual sexual beings? And and so those were like, that was a process that we spoke about, you know what I mean, those reasons for that sensuality and for that scene around the masturbation scene. It's just like, there is a reason. It wasn't just like, oh, let's just have Tantoo Cardinal pleasure herself on screen.
Yeah, no, it played so beautifully. It played so beautifully. And I think it was freeing. It was freeing for so many of us, because it's just not a way that we ever see ourselves, or that we're ever celebrated, particularly once we get to a certain age and they think that somehow somebody has switched off the sex switch. And I don't know about you, but 50 and plus, I feel like it's getting turned up, not shut off. So what was it like for you to embody that, though? And for once to be, being shown in such a positive light, as opposed to having your body taken from you?
Well, I said to Darlene, "Are you sure? Do you really need this?"
Yay, Darlene.
It was a long conversation. Not really.
No.
I was like, yes, we need it.
Oh, okay. All right. That's why they're paying you the big bucks. All right. God, when Darlene first brought the idea that she wanted to create a piece for me, it was a huge, I don't know, it's really hard to explain. it's huge freedom, because when I first got into this business, it was because so we could tell our own stories, so we could tell truth, so we could deny the way we were being shown or the way we were being described. I watch a lot of politics, and I see the hiding going on. They don't really want you to see so much, and we've been a politic in so much of this society, and there's so much that we have not seen of ourselves. And so it's a huge opportunity and a responsibility that here along comes Darlene. And why haven't we seen ourselves in this way? Because our filmmakers, our storytellers, were growing up and coming into their own. And I think a lot of the work that I had to do up until that time, and I don't negate any of it. Every bit of it has been important. And it irritates me when I hear people and I see people saying, oh, doing stereotypical, you've always done these historical things. So-and-so's done well. I saw them in a contemporary piece. Well, you know what? I have done contemporary stuff.
Yep.
And it so happens that where the money is where the screens are, and that's what gets seen. And our role and responsibility in that arena is different than it is here. When you're in your own kitchen, it's different when you're at the neighbor's house.
Yes, yes.
And so I think that's basically what the difference is. And thank you.
Thank you, Miigwech.
I'm glad.
Thank you.
I'm glad you brought up money, because that's the other thing I wanted to chat about. From the point I started interviewing both women filmmakers and women television makers, I remember interviewing a woman who made soap operas in Afghanistan. And 2 weeks later, I interviewed Jennifer Aniston right after she had made the movie Cake. And every woman says the same thing to me. They don't trust us with money. That's why we can't tell our own stories. That's why we can't make movies. I'd love to know, as an Indigenous woman, how hard is it to get them to trust you with the money?
Well, how long do
What
we
money?
have? Yeah,
Right?
what money. Oh my God, we had like the smallest budget. No, it is. It was. It's very much that. It's very much not believing. I don't know, because like I'm very grateful to be here. I'm like, I'm totally like, when I've been saying this is like total res girl, like this is what I wanted to do when I was a kid. Like, I'm growing up on the reserve, wanting to make films. But then how do you do that? You know what I mean? You're living on a reserve in Northern Ontario. And so I didn't have that privilege and that opportunity to have all of this. And finally we get here where we're telling our stories in this way. And, but there's always a struggle that, because they wanted some people want a certain story told through a certain lens. And so when I was thinking about and pushing this film, and it was, a lot of people want to focus in on the trauma. And you know what? When you see Tantoo's character and Mary walking through the bush and the way she walks through the bush, that she'll tell you about historical trauma, and that's where it all lays. It's within the way that Tantoo comes on screen. We have all of that there. So I'm not trying to sell you as what some people are calling trauma porn, or you know what I mean. This idea of like, you know what I mean. We're going to continuously retell the story, and our stories are not just residential schools. They're before this, you know what I mean, and they're after this, and so so we don't get a lot of money to make the films that we want, because we took a chance with this film. But what we did find was partners and producers who wanted to take that chance, and who, you know what I mean, like did not even, like we all, you know what I mean, we all made money at the end of the day, we got paid for it, but we didn't make money. Not like other filmmakers are
Right.
making money. That we other films that we see on the screens that are out there, they're not, But within Film Farm, and I have to shout out to them because they're so amazing. Jennifer Wise, Simone Erdal, and Jamie Manning. But finding allies, you know what I mean, within that, who believed in the story and who didn't want to change, you know what I mean, my perspective or anything like that, who are just like curating amazing people around that with just, you know what I mean, like a very small amount of money. So yeah, it's very hard because they don't want or there's not an opportunity for a lot of people to have those bigger budgets. And so I say, give us those bigger budgets because we're going to make amazing films. And amazing films are going to come out from like filmmakers that are rising. And with that unique perspective is going to be it's going to change everything.
And it really pans the entire audience, because that story right now, at a point in time when I feel like so many people are seeking, so many people are lost. I mean, I've moved here to Toronto because of my career. I ask myself every morning when I wake up, am I happy? I'm far away from my home. I'm off my treaty territory. I'm not sure if I'm happy in Toronto, but this is where I have to be to pursue what I'm doing. And every day I'm out on the street and I'm looking at people and I'm always wondering, are you happy? Are you happy? In fact, I ask that question all the time in interviews. Thomas King stunned the entire AGO when I said, are you happy, after talking about his entire, and he said, no, I'm not. How much of this, for instance, you, Tantoo, live here, you're to do what you do. How much of this really resonated with you? And how often do you have that longing to be back on the land?
I go back on the land almost instantaneously on a daily basis. I can be in my apartment around Danforth and Logan. I can be in a hotel wherever I am. I went back home to my home territory last summer, but my home territory is Fort McMurray, Alberta. So I have had to establish a healthy relationship with the earth. It's beyond the land.
Right.
It's the fire at the core of Mother Earth. And the fire and the light and wherever the center of the universe is. And that's where the land has to be. That's where the grounding and the home has to be. Because if I wait for all of us to understand and breathe and appreciate and know Earth like Mary is embracing, it would be too discouraging. And I can say that I feel happy because I have felt tortured.
Right.
And in horror. I went crazy because that was the only place I could go to feel sane.
Wow.
You know? And so now, I mean, I'm talking when I first got into this business, it was 1970.
I was 2.
Were you? And that's a lot of water under the bridge.
That is.
And we have all learned so much in the course of that time. And just surviving and just staying in, even as partial as the stories were that I was being asked to be part of. I first had to prove that I could act. And so that was my job. I didn't have the luxury to worry about the story, or, you know, it hurt all the time. It really was a part of my process of staying alive, that I knew there was so much more to this story that was being told, and I felt audiences were being ripped off because our stories were not being told and not being told the way they should be told. And then I get people from my own community going, "Oh, that she works for white people. Oh, look at her, she
Yeah.
does all those historical things.
Hmm.
Oh, la la la. Oh, wow, I tell stories about this, and I do
Yes.
this, and so it's a real land of the half breed, eh?
So true.
On
So
both
true.
sides of it. And so yes, I'm really happy. I just feel it in my heart
Mm.
that Darlene's here, and she's bad. She's really
Super bad is back. Well,
She, because she knows where she comes from,
mm.
and that's all she's going to do.
The
And-
sisters, the idea of the women and the sisters in the movie. I was thinking anybody who's got a sister, sister by choice, sister by blood, sister cousin, sister auntie, whatever. I laughed out loud when Tina Keeper just like took all the cookies off the plate, and I thought, oh, Tina's me.
That's Tina.
You're my big sister. I'm the one that take all the cookies off the plate. And you fight like cats and dogs, but say something about my sister and watch me tear your eyes out. And I loved how you captured that, and thank you so much for making one of those sisters gay, because man, I really felt pulled into the story by that as well. And I know we have to go to the audience, but can you talk a little bit about your motivation around that, around the notion of just displaying these beautiful female relationships in all their complexity, not Pollyannaing them, but making them as real as they could be, like, fuck you, Mary, but then crying and loving one another.
Yeah.
I love that.
Just a second. I just want to tell you just this moment when we're driving back from set, and Gail was sitting there, our cousin was sitting there, and she said, "Darlene asked me if I could be gay in this." And she said, "Yeah, for you, Darlene, I can be."
Oh my gosh, she was so convincing. I was like, I knew she was gay before we even heard about Two Shots. I mean, my gaydar was like, whoop, 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 with her cute little
Can we
red
change
gloves.
the
I was
heat, or
like,
is
yeah,
she-
honey, I'll
yeah.
help you find your glove.
Oh no, yeah, no, those sisters and the cousin, it was just so magical. I think you can only write so much, and then Tantoo and Gail and Tina coming together, they were just so brilliant in understanding their own roles and then how to play off each other. And on set, it was so much fun. Like, you know what I mean? Like, after, we're in like 10-hour days, 12-hour days, 14-hour days, still
And
laughing.
that was a sudden scene. That's something that Darlene wrote the night before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. The idea of, there was certain elements of that, but it kept changing from like smelt fishing. It went around the environment when we like snowstorm, ice storm, going from.
Yes, I heard you had 4 seasons in one day.
So every
Yeah.
time, that scene had to change a couple of times because of elements around Mother Earth and what we thought was going to be spring ended up winter.
Okay, now they're telling me we've got 5 minutes left, so I have to go to the audience, or
Okay.
else the audience might revolt. And who's got a question? Oh, maybe the audience doesn't have. Oh, yeah, it's right here.
I don't need a microphone. There's a point where you find the gum wrapper, and then you pick it up and you put some tobacco down and you take some sprigs of the tree. And I'm wondering what that represented. What was yeah.
Yeah, so parts of like there's a lot of different little things in the film that is like where there's like tobacco laid, or within the with the ribbons on the trees, and that's all part of Mary's ceremony and her protection around what she's been taught, and how she is gonna parts of her is like what I mean. She knows she's up for a fight, and so she's asking the creator, and she's asking for that strength, and so within that, giving that tobacco and that prayer.
Oh, we've got another question back here in the striped
Protection.
shirt.
I'm just wondering about the crew, because I understand that the crew, there were a lot of people from the reserve who ended up working as the crew, and I'm wondering if you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's the beautiful thing. It was just not my reserve. It was like all over within the island, up into Tamagami. I see some people from Tamagami. Shout out. Hi. So, Wiki. Yeah, right on. So yeah, so there was we my intention has always been I stayed in the north and to wanting to work with my community and to make films from the north. And so within that, every time we make something, you know what I mean, new people come in, and we just create a larger community making that film. So and once again, like, you know what I mean, that was what was really great about like working with my producers is like that intention that we're going to continue that this is what it's about is like, so it's one thing to create, to put something on to share, but the part of filmmaking for me is that collaboration and that process. And so being able to have working with people in our community was amazing, especially around their knowledge. We had a traditional knowledge keeper who was with us all the time. We had a fire keeper. When things happen and you need a new road, your cousin comes and builds you a new road. So
Nice.
you need them on your side.
And that those cold mornings and the great uncertainty because of weather pulling little tricks. And here is all these, I call them Darlene's cousins, our crew, just smiling away, and the snow's just blowing right past, And these are not strangers to that land or to that kind of day. So it was so embracing and strengthening, and it was actually joyful moving through and getting that day.
It looked very physically challenging, the role you were playing. Did you find it to be more physically challenging? I mean, you're doing so much walking and moving the wood, and
No, I loved it.
you're just a
That was the
fit, fierce
nurturance.
female.
That was, that's where we go get our strength, right?
Mm.
And so, no, I mean, this actually working as an actor is arduous. And a lot of the work that I've had to do has been in the bush, and it's been through, I'm the one that's outside. And when the company moves to go to the city, that's when I'm wrapped and then I
Right.
go back home,
Right.
I
I know
she can still swing an axe.
We've got that was perfect. We've got just a little bit of time left. If someone has a really quick question, someone's pointing a light at somebody here.
I was just wondering, the underwater scenes, were they meant to be more physical or psychological, like to get into Mary's mind, or were they just part of the imagery of breakup time and the scenery and
Yeah.
everything?
That's a good question. No, it's definitely both. The intensity around those shots, I shot those underwater scenes, and I'll go out and like just understand how everything is starting to melt or how everything is moving around. But they weren't intentionally. They were not specifically, especially too when I worked with the editor, and I think where she's in the house. There we go, Tressa.
Yeah.
Amazing editor. And so when it was there was like a fierceness that you wanted to, there was a little bit of like you see that beauty and you see that wonder, but also that there's a sense of that power of that water. So you know that we need that it's lifeblood, but you also want to find and respect it on another level about what it can.
And it's undercurrent, eh?
Yeah,
It's what's
like
under the
building.
ice, and that's the whole process of what we're going through is where Mary comes to the surface.
Yeah.
You did a beautiful job as well, using silence to tell the story of the cold, to tell the whole story. The last time I remember being moved that much by silence was when Atikameksheng made The Sweet Hereafter. I remember the silence in that movie ripping my heart out, and the silence in this movie was amazing. And I know your husband did the music.
Yeah.
Am I right with that?
Yes.
And
Yeah,
the way
Joanne Cote.
that spare music weaved in and out of the silence was
Yeah.
beautiful.
But it was
beautiful.
also sound designed by Steve Monroe, who I believe was part of the Sweet Hereafter. So
Oh,
Right?
Oh
Yeah.
my God, isn't that cool?
yeah, so yeah.
See, now don't you wish we had an hour and a half because there's so much more that I want to talk about. Unfortunately, we are out of time. I want to thank all of you for coming on behalf of everyone here and everyone who's going to see this movie and for your whole body of work. Tantoo
Yes.
Cardinal, Darlene Naponse, can we just please
Thank you.
thank you for telling stories about us and for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Tell
Have a
all
great
your
night.
cousins to come see it.
Yes,
It's across
Get your cousins out there.
Canada.
absolutely.